This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Today, 7 issues. 7 issues that cross my table. I think there's something to be learned from all 7 when it comes to successful speculation. Number 1, the first one out of the gate, this new book, The Network State, by a very bright venture capitalist, a guy named Balaji. I don't want to mess up his last name. Tim Ferriss was interviewing him. And for those not aware, the idea of the network state, and I might bastardize this a little, but essentially people coming together online, forming a nation, like-minded people forming a nation around a topic, eventually binding those people together with a form of government, a form of a country, so to speak, a state, a nation state. And then this digital nation state gains entry into the United Nations. That's the premise of the book. He gets into a lot of detail. There's a lot of issues. Many things I agree with. I think are very interesting how he lays them out. Some things I think have got a blindingly massive hole in his argument. But let's face it, if he could win with his idea, essentially a tax haven nation state, sign me up if I can get away from Uncle Sam taxing me to the moon. But that's not really the interesting point, or at least the point that I want to talk about. In the middle of the conversation, and I think Tim brought this up, Tim talked about reassessing investments. And I'm paraphrasing here, so he can beat me up if I'm wrong. But he said something to the effect of, maybe once every 6 months, you reassess what all of your investments are and make new predictions. Now, I'm a trend following guy. I'm a rules guy. If I hear that, now, of course, also Tim could have been talking in shorthand between him and Balaji, but then again, everyone else is listening. So as a trend following guy, if I hear the idea of reassessing investments and making new predictions, I'm looking for the rule set. What are the exact rules for that? If there's not exact rules, and I'm not saying Tim doesn't have exact rules, I'm assuming he does. But the way he phrased that, my antenna go up. I want exact rules. I want to know what are the markets that we're tracking and trading. When are we entering exactly? How much are we betting exactly? When are we exiting with a loss exactly? When are we exiting with a gain exactly? Down to the decimal point. What's the rule set? So you can take away from that example that Tim brings up. What's yours? Is it just some gut feel, what you ate for breakfast that day? Is it the headlines? Is it what Kramer said? What is the detail? And if you don't have that detail, and especially after you have watched this year, 2022, implode when it comes to equities, when it comes to crypto, you got to be having a gut level feel that you need something more. That the same old way of just riding up a bubble and having your ass handed to you is not a good strategy. You've got to know that deep in your bones. So again, I'm not here to pick on Tim or Balaji in this little example, but when people are not specific and it sounds kind of pie in the sky, I want detail. That's it. Just give me the damn details. Number 2 on my list of interesting things that have come across my desk this last week, a friend of mine who has been a crypto investor since, I think, 2017, 2018. And he told me he made a 7-figure exit in December. Also said he was lucky, which is an honest assessment. Now, I did not ask for any details. I just took him at his word. But let's think about it in the larger context. Crypto has been murdered in the last 6 months, last 7 months? How many people do you think luckily timed, an exit at the top? Not many. That's not the way the game works. When you have markets come down this fast, like they have across the crypto universe, when things come down that fast, there's blood everywhere. Now, a lot of people don't want to admit to the blood. They want to save face. They don't want anyone to know how much they're hurting. But if you have no strategy, when that kind of event happens, the crypto meltdown happens. And as a side tangent, is anyone doing a head count as to how many crypto exchanges and banks have frozen funds with Bitcoin currently around a $20,000 level? Now, this might sound like a fundamental prediction, but let's face it. If people don't have access to their funds, if they can't sell, if they can't transfer, and this is literally happening over dozens of crypto exchanges and banks, there is a pent-up sell demand like one can't even predict. Now that brings up another issue: liquidity. Your ability to get in and out of something. Now look, I don't think the American dollar-denominated system is perfect, but it's what we got. And if you want to get in and out of your stocks, if you want to get in and out of your futures contracts, there's a way to do it. If you want to access your capital, there's a way to do it. If you want to transfer your money, there's a way to do it. Now, again, I'm not saying everything's perfect, because we all know how we felt at the bottom of shit hitting the fan in October of 2008. We all felt like they were going to turn off the system and the ATMs would not work. But that is what's happening in the crypto world. So if you've got a sudden collapse of a correlated group of markets, generally traded by a correlated group of peers, young males, and then you can't access your money, you can't get at your damn money, you can't sell anything. I mean, that's just brutal. That's brutal as hell. It's not what you want as a foundation of trading success. Now, of course, there are multiple people out there, lots of people that have made millions, if not billions, on crypto. And I'm not going to say I'm jealous, but we would all want to be in that position. Why not? But we got to be objective here. We got to look at how does one, us being one, how do we navigate a world of uncertainty? And being locked into one particular world with no liquidity and inability to sell, again, my word is brutal. And you might want to, going forward, reassess where you keep your personal net worth. Now watch these words come back to haunt me as Bank of America and Citibank and Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan possibly implode with some massive boom coming. Who the hell knows, right? Number 3 comes from an email, just a random guy that texted me, and I thought it was a really prescient comment that he said. He said what he had learned from my work, my podcast, my books, was that he was not risking $10,000 because he was making a $10,000 bet. No, he's got a stop loss. He's risking 2% of the 10,000. It's a very subtle but important point. You're not putting the full 10 grand out there and watching the 10 grand go to zero. You got yourself a stop loss. This is also different than the typical, even let's say crypto or penny stocks or tech stocks or whatever. A lot of people will just say, let me throw 10 grand at it. And if I lose my 10 grand, so what? Or they don't want to lose their 10 grand, but they lose it anyways because they didn't have a stop. This guy's pointing out correctly that if you've got a stop, you're not risking the 10,000, you're risking the stop. You're risking the amount you're willing to lose. That's the kicker. Terribly important distinction. I appreciate him sending me that email. Number 4 on my list, Guy writes me and he tells me he's got an overactive mind, keeps tinkering. Now, this brings up a great point. He doesn't understand robustness. Let's say you're trading a trend following system. Let's say the entry signal is 100. That could be anything, but let's say it's 100, a 100-day breakout. Let's say you test your trend following system. It works great at 100. No 99, no 101, it only works at 100. So imagine this peak, this vertical peak, and at the top of the peak, you're sitting there at your parameter of 100, and everything is sunny up there at that 100 parameter. But if you go to 99 or you go to 101, if you try those variables, your system doesn't work. That's a shit system. It's not robust. It's kind of the opposite in a way of what this guy was talking about. He wants to keep tinkering because let's say he's making money at 100 and it works at 99 and it works at 95 and it works at 90 and it works at 110, it works at 115. He wants to keep tinkering. But sometimes you can't make it better. Sometimes you just got to accept. You find a trading system in this kind of robust headspace, a nice parameter set. It works. It damn works. It makes money. Now, maybe you want to tinker, but how much do you tinker? And if you tinker too much, if you add too many other variables, does that lose that robustness? You got to be careful about these things. I think that's what's so brilliant about so many of the, let's call them old soul trend following traders that come on my podcast, is they understand the math doesn't necessarily have to be perfect. It has to be robust. If you can look at a chart from across the room, if the trend is going up, a lot of different variables, a lot of different parameter sets are going to catch that. Why do you want to argue with it? And I think this is the real point of contention here and why I bring this up is because this guy thinks if he keeps tinkering with things, he can improve it versus realizing from a trend following perspective, you're taking what the market gives you. You can't tinker with the market. If the market doesn't give you anything, you don't make any money. If the market gives you a big trend, you've got a chance to make a lot of money. It's a pretty strong distinction, but people sometimes think, let me just sit down and I'll work on this a lot more versus just making sure they are on board when the big move takes off. Number 5 today, I have a guy that writes me and he talks about every expert giving a different opinion. And I thought to myself, hell, am I being positioned as one of these so-called experts? But what are my opinions? My opinions are not, oh, I think the economy is doing this today. I think the Fed will do this tomorrow. Therefore, you should take this action. My opinions are more of being on team trend following and sharing with people, here is a way to navigate all of this uncertainty. Here is a way to have a rule set where you can make money across an assortment of markets and not have a fundamental understanding of those markets. That's a pretty big deal. That's a really nice thing to have. Because look, it's fun. Sometimes if you flip on YouTube, there are some really passionate people saying, for example, Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million, or people that are calling for an implosion of the American financial system. Some really smart people. They can make persuasive cases. But then what are you left with? You're left with listening to them. You're left with making a decision based on what they say on a given day. And hopefully, if markets change or prices move to a new level, they're going to be there to give you a new opinion. Now, we all know they're not going to be there to give you a new opinion. So the fallacy here, the problem is that as a human being, we seem to all want to know a one bit of advice. And if we follow that, it's essentially buy and hold, set it and forget it. That's not the way the world works. So if any expert Any talking head on TV, the Jim Cramers of the world, whoever, if they say something on Monday, buy, sell, what the hell is that? You can't use that. It's fucking gambling. You need something that tells you, again, what are the markets you're going to track? When are you going to enter? How much are you going to bet? And when are you going to exit with a loss? And when are you going to exit with a gain? You need those 5 elements. And wouldn't you much rather have those 5 elements in your possession, the rule set in your possession, versus listening to some nut job who's screaming about his opinion on any one particular day? No, nobody wants that. But the issue is most people don't know to think like a trend following trader. They have not yet discovered the mindset of the Sakota, the Basso, the Haidt, the Jerry Parker. They've not yet discovered it. I mean, you really got to sit down if you're new to trend following. I remember the first time I saw it, but you really got to sit down and say to yourself, if you've never heard of it, you got to say to yourself, what the hell is this? There's no fundamentals. It's not predictive technical analysis. What the hell is this? They're literally trading numbers. That's what they're doing. They're trading numbers and using a risk management strategy while they trade these numbers. They really don't care what the markets are. They don't have any personal, emotional investment in the particular place they make their money. They're agnostic to that. How the hell did they all figure that out? Great questions, but that's trend following. And once you jump in, and once you see the world this way, how the hell do you go back? How the hell do you go back to the other way of listening to quote experts and listening to these voices, the cacophony that never stops? Go check out the piece, and I've got it written in several of my books. You can probably find it online too, where I talk about my quote interview with CNBC, where they wanted me to program a new CNBC show. Number 6, a guest who has appeared on this show, I believe, several times, Katie Kamensky, a trend following trader. She wrote a great book with Alex Gracerman, Alex, who was trained by Larry Haidt. I caught this clip of Katie being interviewed by a typical financial pundit on TV. He looked familiar. I don't remember his name. I know I've seen him for years, if not decades. And I posted this on my blog on June 16th, so you can go find the link there. But essentially, this guy was asking Katie about trend following performance for 2022, which has been fantastic. And not unlike what Joe Kernan did with David Harding years ago, this TV pundit brought up to Katie and said something to the effect of, oh, this must be like long-term capital management again. You're highly leveraged. You'll soon blow up. That's an interesting perspective. I don't know if he's full of shit or stupid, one or the other. Neither option is good. I would probably argue he's full of shit. But then again, you just don't know. But to be that obtuse, to not understand what Katie does, to not understand trend following, and to compare trend following to long-term capital management in the face of, and I show this in my book, Trend Following, that when long-term capital management went under in 1998 and almost, quote, brought down the financial system, trend following traders made a freaking fortune. So for 24 years later, to make the connection to long-term capital management, trend following success in 2022, to make the connection to long-term capital management, I don't know. I guess the guy's just defending ultimately a buy and hold fundamental perspective and most likely doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. Number 7 today, last but not least, I had 2 interviews go live, episode 1088 and episode 1089, both with Larry Haidt. Now, the first one was about 4 weeks ago. That was planned. 189 was not planned and happened less than a week ago. Larry and I just got on the phone and I realized he was on a roll. I turned the recorder on. I said, "Hey, Larry, can I turn the recorder on?" He's like, "Sure, whatever." But I got to tell you, if you're looking for a foundational perspective, a life view, go check out those 2 episodes if you missed them. 1088, 1089. Larry Haight just gives it straight. No bullshit. A real person talking. A guy past the age of 80 who sounds like he's on top of it all, still to this day. And when you compare that kind of voice, when you compare that kind of mindset to the drivel that you can find on a Bloomberg or a Yahoo Finance or a CNBC at any given moment, man, I'm lucky to do this podcast. I wish I could have Larry here for the next 50 years to give those insights. But for the moment, we will have to enjoy them now. And coming up, some people that I've not had on the show for quite a while, great trading minds. In fact, I can think of 4 trading minds who have not been on my show for a few years, coming back soon. 4 guests that everyone will like and have often been considered some of my best guests. So without any further delay, which is something I usually say at the beginning of an episode, without any further delay, go out there and make sure that you understand trend following trading A to Z. And if you do, you're going to have a better damn life. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.